Well, welcome everyone to the Motyv podcast. We're here to help you liberate whatever you have in your life. I'm excited today. Jordan walked in. Blake and I were planning one. Jordan walked in. We said, "Hey, jump on in with us." And I want to just jump right in, guys. We have in my therapy sessions, I call these dichotomies, and I know I was telling you guys that before, and maybe we'll call them something else. But basically, here's a problem that a lot of clients have, a lot of people have, is that we aren't specific in our words. We say one thing, and really we should have said something else. And what I mean by that is, perfect example is somebody could come in and talk to me about depression, and I'll listen to them and I'll listen to them, and I'll kind of realize that no, I don't know that you're depressed. I think you're sad. And it's liberating in and of itself for people to realize I'm not depressed, and to realize I'm just sad. Like, yeah, but because you don't know the difference, you wouldn't know. How could you tell, right? How could you even face that in your own mind? How could you be able to talk to yourself through it? How could you open up about it in a correct way and maybe get support? Plus, if you think you're depressed, it's really easy to deny that experience because maybe you hate the fact that you're feeling depressed. So we have 3 different dichotomies we want to go over today, and we're going to jump into a doozy though. Okay, and this one I see a ton in the addiction world or the bad habit world with pornography and men, and that is lust versus attraction. So let that set in for just a minute. So lust versus attraction. So good example, I would say a common phenomenon in my sessions is people come in and there's a severe shame, right? And you both of you guys know that. There's a ton of shame, and we will dive into the shame. What is it about? What is it you're frustrated with? What is shame is essentially a lot of self-denial, or you could say denying yourself of joy, denying yourself of connection, and many other things too. But they come in and there's so much shame, and you start talking to them and you realize they are so ashamed of what they think is lust, but is actually just attraction. And I had a conversation with someone a few weeks ago, and I said, okay, this is a heterosexual man. And I said, so with attraction, I said, do you think that if I gave you a month, in 1 month's time, that you could be attracted to men? I said, just in 1 month's time, I want you to push yourself, and I want you to turn yourself into a gay man. And he laughed, and he laughed for a good reason. In other words, in his soul, he acknowledged that attraction is very much non-agentic. I can't just necessarily choose it and then just change it.
Explain agentic to people.
Agentic would be that it's simply just a willpower, right? That I can just focus my mind and say, okay, I am not attracted to that thing anymore. Now, at a baseline, I think that's true, but I think what we're attracted to can also be nourished in good or bad ways, as to and to how intensely, I guess, that attraction is.
And how it's fed. And so a lot of that attraction can change, right? Is basically what you're saying, based on how we feed it.
So I think a good metaphor is the flashlight, a flashlight metaphor. Attraction is if you've given this flashlight, and so through discipline, God has said we need to figure out how to like zone that thing in. How do we zero it in on a target? And essentially in marriage, can I center my attraction into my spouse in a healthy way? It takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of practice, but that very attraction is what actually made you attracted to her to begin with. So without it, the gift of it is what actually brought you together. But now it's a discipline for me to hone that in. And so again, as men start to realize this, it can also help liberate a lot of shame, because you realize so much of my life that I've been ashamed of has been actually just attraction.
So the ability to be attracted is a gift.
Yes.
Attracted to somebody or a certain type of somebody.
Exactly.
Is meant for us. We're meant to have that.
Yeah. Yeah, we have it in our early 20s when we're dating too, right? Even after you're married, attraction. Oh, too far away. There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
So even our early 20s, we have attraction. Just because you get married doesn't mean it goes away, right? Like you still have attractions to somebody. I guess like my hearing you're right, it's more so how do you discipline that to focus it in a certain area so you don't lust after other people.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Okay.
So lust would be that's when the choice really comes in. And if you think about it like the flashlight, and instead of choosing to zone that thing in on just someone in particular, it's actually kind of just letting it go. And now we have this massive strobe light, or not strobe light, but yeah, maybe they call it a strobe light. I'm thinking
Spotlight?
of spotlight. Thank you. Well, I told you, I gave you a warning. Anyway, here comes my words. So, spotlight, strobe light, spotlight. So, lust is when you have no guard at all, right? It's like, I'm just going to allow this light to focus on anything that's shiny, if you will.
So let me jump. I hope this isn't tangential, but when we worked together at the residential, we would often, not maybe once or twice a year, we would, there's a YouTube video where this doctor in addiction, working a lot with people with pornography problems, explains the process. Well, I guess the harm of high-speed internet pornography on the adolescent brain.
Yeah.
And I think it's related to what we're talking about, because he walked us through so many examples of how people, at a young age, they Googled pornography, maybe like something typical search, and they're just that adolescent and they're looking for something, but it's pornography.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be something considered normal, typical attraction, just straight sex, for example, straight sex. They might just search up something like that. That might be attractive to them. In that process, it opens up so many other options that they never have thought about. Thumbnails off to the side, underneath, whatever. It's like boom, 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 boom. And so they might get bored with whatever they started with.
Yes.
They're going to get bored with whatever they started with. I can say that.
Desensitized.
Pretty. Yeah. Desensitization is very powerful. And so then they see something kind of shiny off to the side that they've never thought about. And they're like, whoa, that looks interesting. And on and on and on. In that lust just broadens. It's anything shiny now. Kind of what you were saying. And he goes as far as to say, just long story short, it's extreme enough, guys, that they have treated people that are straight men that can't, I guess, climax without gay porn.
Yeah. Just because of the training.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a wild thought. That's how dangerous this stuff is, right? As far as expanding the discipline part that you talked about, it's really dangerous. That's why porn is so powerful, because it just opens up that lust channel. Mm-hmm. And now you're like, anything goes. Yep.
So lust is this feast. I think in scripture too, it talks about consuming it upon your lusts. I ask people all the time in our group, where is it that when you feel lust, where do you actually feel it in your body? It's a phenomenal question. And most men will pause for just a moment. And sometimes they'll say, I think I feel it in my head. And they're like, I feel like it's like my mind goes fast. And then I'll say, anywhere else? and I know we're not trying to be here irreverent, but they actually rarely say genitals. They actually say, I feel it in my lower abdomen. Mm-hmm. And then I'll say, and what else do you feel down there usually in your lower abdomen? And they always say, I don't know. And then I say, how about hunger? Where do you feel hungry? It's in your stomach. It's in your lower abdomen. And I think God, he allowed us to have these simultaneous experiences, actually, that lust could be felt down there in the same place that hunger is felt. Because as we begin to overcome our hunger through fasting, we're actually simultaneously building the muscle that we need to overcome lust in any way, right? Not even just lust with pornography or lust with sexual things, but lusting after anything, using something else to satisfy something that the Savior would rather soothe himself. Yeah. And that's, to me, where at the heart lust really is. And so if hunger or if lust is a feast to me, then attraction is a disciplined hunger, if you will, or it's also a non-chosen. We don't choose to not be hungry. It's hungry. We have this hunger, but we choose how to eat. We choose very well how to eat and what to eat.
Yeah.
And isn't it great on fast Sundays too, when we've gone without for so long? If any of you that have gone without food for an extended period of time, it doesn't take long for a graham cracker, right, to just become like, you come home and your kid eats a graham cracker and you're like, yeah, that's what I'm eating in about 5 hours. Like it's like that. You all of a sudden you're like, I'm so grateful for a graham cracker. Whereas on a typical day that you may have been going without food, or sorry, on a typical day where you were just eating normally, you wouldn't really have much appeal.
Well, you don't know about putting Nutella all over the graham cracker,
dude,
apparently.
Yes, I do. Are you kidding me? And peanut butter.
There you go.
Well, I guess that's where you say the lust comes in, and anything in sight becomes, that's what I want right now.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, right? That's going to take the place of it. So it's instant gratification to satisfy the lust rather than actually connecting to what's important or what you really want or how to focus that in.
And see, my passion is getting people to realize what you just said, and that instead of trying to stop pornography, how about what if you focused on lust? If you break lust, guess what? Pornography is very likely not going to happen.
Yeah.
If you break porn, guess what? Lust could be happening every second.
Just
because you stopped porn doesn't mean you're not lusting. But if you stop lusting, guess what? You probably broke porn.
Yep.
And just like if you've ever experienced with like discipline with food, if you can go a good solid week without sugar or like really nailing it down, those cravings also dissipate pretty powerfully.
Yeah.
Maybe it takes a little longer for some people, but I've experienced that in my life where I'm like, I kind of don't think about this very often. But also at the same time, for me, I always joke that I haven't been hungry for like 15 years, because I just eat, like I don't have to be hungry to eat.
Yeah. Who does, man? Is that real?
Yeah, but it's maybe Jim Gaffigan introduced me to that joke, but anyway, it's that idea, right? And if you can discipline that, because we have to eat.
Yep.
Right. And we also have to be attracted to people. That's reasonable. We need to be attracted, but then it needs to be disciplined, like you said. So it's a really cool analogy, that hunger.
Yeah. I think the last thing I would say about it that came to my mind just barely is time. I think there's a bit of time that can occur where attraction will hit, and that's normal. And what you do in that time span of does it turn to lust or does it turn to love? That window of time, that's where that has to be built. That discipline, that window can be broadened. It can be made bigger. You can have more and more time from when there's an attraction to turn it into a discipline of love or compassion.
Yeah.
And for a lot of men that I work with, that's a huge part of our discipline that we teach is when you're out and about somewhere, you're at the gym, whatever, could you turn what could be a simple attraction from a female who's dressed provocatively, could you turn that into a love? And I'm not trying to be weird with that, especially a married man, but love could actually take the form of compassion, in that how sad that might be that a female might only see her identity in a sexual way.
And her value.
And could you actually feel a sadness about that, or could you have a compassion for that? It doesn't mean I gawk and I have to stare, because that again, in that window, there has to be that discipline of what I do with my eyes, which is a difficult thing, right? But it can be taught with the right understanding that we're even teaching in this very podcast. Can I just break this thing down into steps of attraction happens? Now I have a choice. Now there's agency. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
Love, lust.
I want to go back real quick before we move on to the next. Back to shame.
Okay.
How can this help someone with shame, right? If you give yourself permission or understand what we're saying, being attracted to someone, noticing someone attractive by itself is not problematic. Right? Right. So that's where people get they're like, oh, I saw somebody at the gym. In our experience working with men right now with pornography problems, that's a huge trigger, is the gym. And they're like, what am I supposed to do? Never go to the gym? And it's like, no, you got to work on lust, like you said. But it's not wrong to be like, okay, there's an attractive person right there. What do you do after that? Do you stare and do you entertain the thought, or do you just accept it and move on? You know, Christine, I'm going to put Christine on the spot. She's always like, ooh, Thor.
I
She's over there nodding with raising her eyebrows.
love this.
But yeah, like Thor. Okay. I'm like, yeah, of course. He's a good looking guy.
Yeah.
She's not entertaining it. She's not like just diving into it, you know, in some lustful way. She's like, oh, Thor. You know, if you ever see, is it Chris or Liam?
Chris.
Chris Hemsworth, right? And then likewise for me, I'm like, oh, Blake Lively. Not because we share a name, but she's an attractive actress.
Mm-hmm.
And then it stops. It stops there.
Yeah.
And if we fed that, there would be problems. Just like if you fed entertained those thoughts whenever you are at the beach, which is hard for some guys, or at the gym.
Yeah.
And so the shame is like, allow yourself to be attracted to people without going and entertaining all your thoughts.
Because I think there's so much effort, and it drowns men, and they feel like failures in their attempt at diminishing attraction.
Yeah. That's a
Does
really
that make
good
sense,
point.
Jordan?
Yeah, I think culturally too, right? Well, whether we're out in Utah, that is one thing culturally that I think I have a different, culturally, I have a different opinion on, because it's no, no, no. And then when you get married, yes, 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 right? And there's not a lot of conversations of, hey, like puberty is normal, attraction is normal, feelings are normal. That is okay to have.
Hormones.
We are
spiking
giving those
is
for a
normal
reason.
in adolescence, right?
And when the time comes to use it appropriately, it makes it all the better, right?
Yeah.
But if you suppress that part of you, it will come out one way or the other. And I think there's so much effort in suppressing it that when they're in a moment where they can't anymore, it just all comes out at once.
And it's coming out in harmful ways.
Exactly. Yep.
Right. So
Or
it
when
will come out.
Or when it needs to come out in a beautiful way.
They can't.
In intimacy, there's a wall that's been built.
Yes.
And you didn't even know you built it. You were just trying your best to not be attracted.
Mhm.
That's that subtlety. Yeah.
Right. And that's why we're doing this. That subtlety of words, that subtlety of focus. So important.
Yeah.
So important.
Sweet. We should move on.
Yeah, let's move on to the next one. You want to
Okay.
introduce this one?
Yeah, let's do depression versus sadness.
Oh yeah.
And I'm going to start with a phrase, and I want you to go with it a little bit, because you were the one that, not to put you on the spot, but like we were in a Motyv men group a while ago, and we did talk about this phrase stood out to me, and I love it, and I actually use it in therapy all the time. That sadness is the cure for depression. My understanding of that is that so many people are so uncomfortable with any discomfort emotionally, right? Sadness sucks. Like sadness is not fun. We
Nope.
don't want to be sad anytime, right? We see sad stuff and we distract ourselves, right? But a lot of people do it in such an extreme way that they never allow any of that in their lives. They numb it as soon as they feel it, any discomfort. And sadness specifically, we don't allow ourselves to be sad.
Yeah.
And by not doing that, we're never used to it at all. And all of a sudden, with all of the efforts that we make to not be sad, we find ourselves all of a sudden depressed because we don't even know what happened, because it's been so long since we've allowed any degree of sadness into our heart or our thoughts, that whether it's porn or drugs or just numbing on our phone or doom scrolling, whatever else you can think of ways that we avoid sadness. And through all of those efforts, we're disconnected now. We're lonely because we never dealt with it and had hard conversations with people, never reached out for help. Like, that's huge.
Yeah.
Like, we don't talk to each other about hard stuff. And then all of a sudden you're freaking depressed.
Right. So I define, and this is more of a simple definition. So depression for me, the way I define it, is more of I call it a game of rejection and denial. So for me, I'm usually as depressed as I am at denying whatever it is I'm denying. So when someone says, hey, I'm just feeling really depressed, I'll often ask, what is it that's going on in your world that you continue to reject or deny? And that might be something in your, like in your bigger world. It might be something about you when you look in the mirror. It might be something, a decision that you've made in the past. It might be a decision you're making now. But it's whatever it is, you refuse to accept it as real. And then what happens is then we have this game of denial, but then we have a game of achievement or a lack thereof. And so now I'm not only accepting the world, but I'm not accepting my world or myself, but I'm also lacking achievement. And that's an absolute formula for depression. Whereas sadness is loss.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sadness gets overlooked, especially in the men's world, but also just in anyone's world, because you don't see a casket every time. It's easy when there's a casket to know, like, yeah, I'm sad. I'm deeply sad, you know. But anytime you've had an expectation or you had a value in a relationship or you had something that you wanted to happen and it doesn't occur, you know, you're gonna experience sadness if you allow yourself to. And if there was an emotion that most men are dealing with that they won't find and they don't talk about, it is sadness. And I said this a couple weeks ago in a session. I said, unseen sadness is loneliness.
Yep.
Unseen sadness is loneliness. And I believe that to the core now. And because of my own life, when we grin and bear it, and it just stays in there and it gets funky, you know. But it's so liberating when we can tell the difference of, like, why can't I acknowledge that I lost something? You know, why can't I accept the fact that that's something meant something to me and I lost it? And that might be a very physical thing. Like, it might be something exterior to you, but it also might be something within me that I value self-control, and I lost my self-control at home with my kid. And it's like, yeah, you lost that. And it's sad.
Yeah.
Can you feel it? Can you move on and learn from it? And so anyway, those two are very commonly misunderstood,
Like put together,
and they're put together synonymously. Like, and then, like you said, because my relationship with depression is so bad, which, again, who wants one? Like, who wants to love depression? But if I'm like constantly in this place of, I don't want to be there, I don't want to even feel it, I don't want to go there, but really it's like sadness that needs to be felt. Now I'm disconnected in a lot of ways, because sadness is going to be felt on a daily basis.
Do you think this has anything to, just touching quickly, like last week you and I talked about this idea that, like, we shouldn't have problems. You know what I mean? I know this, it's kind of going back to what I said, not necessarily distinguishing between depression and sadness, but I think people find themselves that way because nobody thinks they should have problems anymore, struggles. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
yeah.
We hit that last week of, like, you said, I could have 4 or 5 diagnoses,
Yeah.
and you could have 4 or 5 diagnoses, and Jordan, he probably only has like 1 or 2 because he's amazing. But you know what I mean?
It depends on which energy
And, like,
drink you drink that
why?
day.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. How many yerba mates have you already had?
Uh-huh.
So I don't know why I'm saying that. I just think that so many people they can't allow themselves to be sad.
Yeah.
Because it's a problem. We live in a world where we're not supposed to have any problems, but, like, sadness is actually helpful, you know?
Yeah, and then going back to conditioning, and Jordan, I'm sure you have some thoughts on this, but of moments in the past when someone maybe you did say something to someone about your sadness and it was dismissed, and that just picks up, it picks up momentum inside you of, like, that hurt even worse. I'll just deal with it. And
Oh man, when
right.
your feelings are disregarded, it's
Yeah.
like a stab in the back.
Yeah, and so for guys, hey dad, I'm feeling really sad today, and
Tough enough.
hey
It's
bud,
okay.
let's
You'll get
talk
through
about
it.
it.
You're good.
It's just rare, and I'm not. Again, it's not that every single emotion always has to be validated. I'm not about that.
No.
Not every single time it doesn't need to be, per se, but in a lot of cases it was missed.
It needs to be. Like, we need to be validated, but and it's not always going to happen. So then you got to deal with that sadness on top of the sadness. But when you're like, hey, I'm feeling pretty sad today. Yeah, me too. Here's why. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's tough.
It's an interesting point, right? I guess for me, when I think of depression and sadness, maybe I look at it in a different way sometimes.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
For the reason that I guess the way that I think of sadness is a normal emotion that we all feel at various times throughout the day. So sadness, it comes and goes, it ebbs and flows, and it's just part of daily life, right? I look at the deeper you go in sadness can create a depressed state. So I go so deep in my sadness or feel so much of it and immensely that I create a depressed state around me. And oftentimes what I'll hear people say is, I'm depressed. I said, no, you're feeling sadness to a level that's causing you to feel depressed, but you're not depressed. And I think that's, for me, maybe that's the difference that I kind of think of is most people who say they're sad say they feel sad. Most people who say they're depressed say, I'm depressed. It becomes a part of them, which in essence means I almost stop trying to change that and just fall into it.
And now I just need to like manage it.
It possesses me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which it can feel that way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So you see it more on a spectrum of sorts, if you will. So sadness, like spectruming down into, which I totally understand.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yep. Now there's a difference in a state of depression and chronic depression, right?
Mhm.
If we're going that route,
Yeah.
right? Chronic depression is definitely different, but most people experience a state of depression, which
Mhm.
I can get out of and I can choose how long I want to stay in before I want to do something, which I think where it ties into what you were saying is the minute you decide to address what you needed to or stop denying what you're denying or lean into the unmet expectations that happened, like you can actually get out of that state.
Yeah.
Right, by addressing it or doing something about it instead of just going with it.
Yeah.
Right.
And so much of what we talk about at Motyv is ulterior motives to things. So what are the benefits of staying in this place?
Yeah.
And that's a hard question. It's a very honest question to ask oneself. But if you can get there, of like, what are the benefits of staying in this place, in this depressed place? And it doesn't mean the answer is, oh, there aren't any. Like that's not the answer. There are many benefits, and the goal then could be, can I achieve these benefits in a different way? And because you don't even have to give up the benefits. You know, it's like this preserves me. This kind of, it helps me feel like I can just revigorate myself and just be calm for a moment, be in a place of again, like regrouping. And again, there's many more than that, but I'm just here to say that usually good connection brings you out. Good connection resolves the same benefits, or it creates the same benefits as what some people are often subconsciously seeking in a depressed state.
Yeah. Now, have you heard the difference? I mean, stereotypically, there's a saying that says if you want to help women with depression, you help them feel better. If you want to help men with depression, you give them a purpose. You make them
I
do
agree
something.
with that.
Right. Now, I don't have it off the top of my head. I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was, and I'm totally going to butcher it. Maybe you guys know this, but there was a war or something going on, and there was a bunch of men laying in beds, essentially as part of the psych ward or the psych unit, just believed to have schizophrenia, mentally unstable, like they just couldn't function, right? And during that time, they needed help, and so these men jumped out of bed, got dressed, and went and helped, whether it was drive trucks or help with the war or do whatever they needed to do. And the actual purpose they had in the moment cured what they had been dealing with for 20 plus years in the psych ward. Now, I got to find the resource to back that
makes
up.
sense,
I've heard
though.
the story.
The idea of it is very applicable.
Yeah.
And I just don't know that it's super gender specific. If I had to guess, I think women, I think purpose is human as it gets.
I'll agree with you there.
But I do hear what you're saying that men have an adequacy that we loved. I mean, when we are adequate, if our wife or if our woman sees us as adequate or acknowledges our adequacy, I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Right. There's a powerful, I don't know, whatever that does.
It's
we
awesome.
just want to be adequate.
Yeah.
So that's why we're always like, what do you want for your birthday? Like, what do you like? And then the woman's like, well, if you love me, you'd know. I know, but I want to be adequate. So can you please just tell me what you want for your birthday?
I'm trying to do my job.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Sweet.
Any other thoughts? Are we good?
We're good on that one. I really like the intro to some of those ulterior motives or benefits of our problems. We're going to do we'll do a podcast pretty soon on that stuff because it's really eye-opening when you break it down. So
yeah,
the last one that we wanted to do today is nice versus kind. Now, a lot of you will know what we're talking about. I I can feel this one,
Oh yeah.
why kind is better than nice. I don't know if I can articulate it as well as other people, but kind to me is definitely more genuine and thoughtful. Nice can be fake and very superficial and like rescuey and non-confrontational. But kind, I guess the way that I would say it is like a lot of people think boundaries are mean.
Mhm.
I think boundaries are kind. I think boundaries are very kind in a relationship
Absolutely.
because it just tells people what I'm going to tolerate. And if I never communicate and somebody offends me and I never tell them that, but it builds up and I just lose my crap,
Yeah.
it's because I was not communicating those things. So I think it's very kind to tell people where you are. And as a parent, it's very kind to have boundaries. Anyway,
So we're often taught to be nice.
oh yeah, nice is very, very superficial to me. It's better than nothing. Maybe, I don't know, but like,
So what I say all the time is Jesus wasn't nice, he was kind.
yeah,
Right. And if he was nice, he would have when he gave a commandment or when he taught a truth and somebody was offended by it, he would have said, "Oh, hold on, never mind. Like let me dial that down a little bit. Let me change that standard. I didn't want to just hurt your feelings." Kindness has a tolerance to it that you must have because it's going to hurt people. But it isn't malicious. It's just to say there is a standard. Like this is what is and isn't okay for me, right? Because I love that definition of boundary. I wish I could claim it, but a boundary is how I love myself and you at the same time.
Hmm.
I heard Brene Brown say it, I think, but I don't know that she even said it. Anyway, it goes to someone, right? But again, with God, would I really love God if he had no commandments? If he was just all love, I just love everybody. And like, I don't, well, how do we get to heaven? It doesn't even matter. Like, how should we live on this world? It's okay. I don't know. Just like do the best you can. We'll just see what happens. Just live on the world. Like, well, can we kill, like, what if we like make this person who was alive not alive anymore? Well, I don't know. We'll just figure that out later. It's like, there's no expectations. And when you take kids, for example, they have to know what the structure is. You throw a bunch of elementary kids out in the schoolyard and you give them a ball and you say, "Hey, make a game. Go play a game." Right? They'll spend at least 15 minutes figuring out the rules. You've watched them. Like they'll argue, they'll spend a ton of time. These are the rules. Isn't that incredible? Like that's not nice. And it doesn't sound nice when you listen to them set up the rules. They're actually very assertive. It's
you
pretty
can't
awesome.
do that.
Yeah,
We didn't
no,
talk
you
about
can't.
that. Like, no,
All
that's
the time.
okay. New rule.
And a lot of parents will interrupt that, like, "Hey, stop." It's like, no, this is what a society thrives in. Like that little dotted yellow line on the road when you're going 90 miles an hour. Oh, I guess not that fast, but unless you're Blake. When you're going really fast, that's all that is it's just paint. All that is paint.
That's right.
But everyone following it is essential. Without chaos to ensue, right? So I always say, you wouldn't respect God without commandments either. If he didn't tell us some things, if he didn't say, this is what I expect, these are what will help you be happy. Here's the boundaries of the soccer field. And when you go outside of them, repent and come back. But within the playing field, have some fun. Within the field, play your life.
Have joy.
And have joy. But know that just because Jordan's at that end of the field and Blake's over there and I'm over here doesn't mean he's doing it wrong. It just means he's playing differently than you. Right? But if he comes over into my sphere and my area on the field and he's interrupting what I'm doing and I feel that interruption, it's not nice to just be like, "Oh, hi, Jordan." Like, "Hi." It's kind of me to be like, "Hey, I was playing over here. If you want to play with me, we can, but this is the game I was playing. And if you want to play, let's do this." And
You're more than welcome.
Yep, you're more than welcome. And now he knows what to expect from me, which makes him feel safer so that he can act in his best place too.
If you think about the eternal laws that even God is bound to, right? If you break these types of commandments, if you live in these certain ways, it's going to bring like devastation long term, right? Here's some standards to live in. Here's some boundaries to live in because I love you and I don't want those things to happen.
Right.
That's kind.
Yep. And without it, you wouldn't know. We don't know. Without your boundaries, I don't even know you.
Yeah.
So it's niceness is peace faking as to kindness is to peacemaking, right?
Yeah. And I like that. And then with kids as a parent, Is consistency kind? Yes. Some predictability in a lot of ways is very kind, right? You got to teach them how to be flexible too, but routines and some of that stuff is really kind, because it's like parents that are all over the place with their discipline or their moods. That's so anxiety provoking for a kid. Which parent am I going to get today? You know what I mean? Even when it comes to expectations, like some days it's, yeah, go hang out with your friends till midnight. Who cares? No, what are you doing? You're never home. Like day to day chaos.
Yeah.
So some order is kind.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, for me, a kind is a characteristic trait. It's a value that you possess as a person. I'm choosing intentionally to be this way, right? It's an intrinsic value. I can be nice accidentally. I can be nice without thinking about it. I may have ulterior motives, but I can be nice in the moment. If I'm going to be kind, it's an intentional choice that I make towards somebody for a reason, and there's something backing it to why I chose to be that way. So to me, it's more intentional, and it's more about you as a person, who you are and who you want to be. We can all be polite and nice if we want to, but have ulterior motives.
Oh,
It's
for
easy.
sure. I like that.
Well said.
The way you said that just really solidifies to me that kindness is love,
Yeah.
or that
Yeah.
there's like so much overlap.
The
I
emotion.
don't think you can be kind without love, I guess, is like actual kindness comes from love
Yeah.
and the way that I feel it.
I think the emotional experience that I have when I'm being nice is lonely, angry, powerless, and anxious,
How about resentful?
and then resentful, right? Resentment is the
Gosh, that was powerful.
yeah. And then with kindness, it's powerful, it's love, it's assertive, and it's actually really confident.
Yeah.
It's really confident and really accountable too. Because I can and I think there's a lot of empathy and kindness too. Because I could say, hey man, I know you're just trying to, I know you need some help tonight. You know, you call me at 11:30 or whatever. I'm like, hey, I know you need some help, but like I just can't. I'm with my kids, and you do that very well, you know. But I could have some empathy. I know you need some help, but I'm also like, I need to get to bed. I need to get my sleep. So I can have that empathy, but I can also then say, here's my boundary.
Yeah. I think of real quick, and we can end, but like people pleasing comes to mind.
Yeah, I mean,
People pleasing is nice to me, right? We're just doing it to avoid conflict at all costs. People pleasers experience a high level of anxiety and lots of resentments eventually, because they've just never stood up. They think people should like just know,
yeah,
you know, what not to do around them, or what to do or what not to do. And if you can't communicate that stuff over time, you're going to get used. You're going to get taken advantage of in so many ways, even platonic relationships. You know, even your guy friends, even your girlfriends. Something will happen and you're going to get burned and you're going to be resentful. And it's shared responsibility. It's not all your fault. But by having boundaries and communicating that stuff, you can avoid those resentments. So it's really, this is fun. I like all that.
Jordan Peterson, he said, when you have the opportunity in a situation, especially with someone else, to choose guilt or resentment, choose guilt every time. And that's what we're talking about. Kindness will probably make me feel a little guilty, especially any of you that are listening to this and you're thinking, okay, I want to try to be more kind. And get one of the first things that'll start to occur is that you will probably say the word no, maybe a little bit more than you did before. That's a good indicator of niceness versus kindness, is when you say yes, when your gut's telling you no, that's nice.
Yeah.
And so you'll start to say no more. And then guess what feeling comes with from after that usually, when you're not used to it, is guilt.
Yep.
But guilt's just with you. That's what's neat. Guilt's just with you and you can deal with that. Whereas resentment is with both. It's a poison. So if you ended up saying yes to something that your gut told you to say no to, I very likely will resent not only you, but I'll resent myself for having said it. And we've all been there. We've absolutely all been there. But resentment is so much more poisonous to society, to yourself, to your mind, to your soul,
Your
than guilt
relationships.
ever was. Guilt usually is motivational.
Yeah.
It's a driver usually. So
Sweet.
anyway.
Well, hopefully this has been helpful to you guys that are listening. I mean, just those three kind of distinctions between
Yeah.
depression and sadness, lust and attraction, and nice versus kindness.
Yeah.
That's
Hopefully
cool.
it can help your self-awareness and again create a little more liberation in your life to understand yourself.
Yeah, both. We chose some that could be, really individual focused, and then some, that is relationship based.
Yeah.
So hopefully you guys can glean stuff from that.
Yep. All righty. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah. See
Thank
ya.
you.